back to the Screensavers. I'm Leo Laporte. Now, coming up in this half hour, has your mouse stopped working? Is it not scurrying along? Patrick says, don't go out and buy another $5 mouse. We'll show you how to fix it. That's Patrick for you. And Joe wants you.
Hey, Leo.
I know. I'm going to suffer.
You're going to be humiliated when I'm done with you.
No, but you know, why buy another mouse when you can fix it, right? And Joe wants you to know how you can get iTunes, or he actually is going to ask us, so we'll tell him. I don't know how to get iTunes transferred. He's got, he used Aloha Bob. And Aloha Bob doesn't speak iTunes. Actually, it's an authorization issue, I believe. Let's talk to our first guest today. He's been a moderator for Slashdot. He worked for OSDN. We had him on many times talking about open source. He's now working. He's a game designer working with Damage. I keep calling you Danger. Damage Studios. New program is going to be, it's called Reconstruction, and we finally have some art to show people, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to flick it up.
It's a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
Yes.
Or an MMORPG. So that's good. So will that be me or Patrick?
Patrick.
That's failed human teleportation.
Well, what we do is we put out these backstory elements, and that's from some of them.
So, but will the game look somewhat like this kind of environment? Will you be in this kind of
yeah,
environment?
except for you won't be drawn like that.
No, you'll be
here's
higher
just
quality.
a weapon we've got here.
See, this must be fun.
It is fun.
So you've got basically some programmers working on the engine.
Yes.
And then you have artists and writers working on the story and the graphics and all that
It's interesting to use the plural of writer.
You're the writer?
Yeah, I'm it.
That's it?
Yeah.
You're writing the whole thing?
Well, somebody's got to do it, and it's one of those things where we're still a very small company. So writer.
Well, you've got
artist,
time while they're doing the
modeler,
engine. That could take a while, right?
Well, sort of. We're licensing part of it, and we're writing the back end. And
well, we have some high school teachers, some writing teachers here.
And for the Macworld
from the Macworld Conference. So they're from Lakewood High School. And it's Lakewood High School in Long Beach School District. There they are. Yeah, the attractive ones on the right. There you go.
I don't see them. No.
So, yeah, if you want any instructions on the use of the semicolon, I think they could help you.
My bane is the apostrophe, like so many other programmers.
Yes, it's your.
Yours.
Yeah. I'm a real stickler on that. So don't send me an email with the wrong apostrophe. Let's move on to Linux. Now, the kernel got upgraded to 2.6.
That's right.
And many people who installed Linux in the last year or so are still working with 2.4.
Exactly. And that's totally okay.
That's normal.
Yeah. 2.6 is still fairly cutting edge.
You wouldn't recommend everybody go upgrade right away?
Right. I mean, if you really want to sort of like be new early adopter guy and want to try that out, go for it.
Oh, okay. But at some point, you may want to upgrade.
Yeah, at some point you will upgrade.
And one way to do it would be to go out and buy a new distro and install on top of it.
Right.
But the real manly way to do it would be to recompile the geekly way to do it would be to recompile your kernel. Where do we get the kernel sources to begin with?
I have an article up so people can just follow the links there.
Yes, we're going to move fast.
But they're going to be going to kernel.org, which is the central repository for all things kerneling.
Now, you want to use a even-numbered kernel, not an odd-numbered kernel. 2.6, not 2.5.
Exactly.
Because those are the stable ones.
Right. So the evens are the stable. The odds are the unstable development. Don't touch them unless you're insane.
So can you just download it?
Well, I just clicked on it, but I've already downloaded it for the second.
So what do you get when you download it?
Well, when you download it, you get a program. And
a big, large tar file.
It's going to be 40 megabytes.
Okay.
And when you're done
it's source code?
decompressing it, it's going to be much, much larger. So you'll probably need 400 megs to work with to do
400, okay. So you decompress it.
Right. And then you decompress it using the tar command, which is, again, all in the article I wrote for you guys.
Okay.
And then it goes blah, 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 blah,
so these are, and you look, a lot of them are C and H files, which means they're source code files.
Yeah.
Not a lot of C++, actually. It's almost all C.
Actually, there's no C++ in the kernel.
It's all C.
Yeah.
Interesting. You also, you get, it looks like I'm getting drivers, so I'll get some modules, I'll get some other stuff as well.
Yeah, there's a lot more devices supported. There's a better scheduler in 2.6. It's pretty superior. But I've already
we got all the source code. I know, we're just showing you. So now what's the next step?
So once you're there, what you're going to do is you're going to type in make menu config. Right here. So
this is the one I use. There are different ways to run the config, but this is the easiest one.
Yeah, well, you can go line by line if you're insane. You can do it in X. You can do it all kinds of different ways.
This is an N-curses way to do it on a command line.
Yeah, I think this is actually probably the best way for anyone new to the kernel process.
Well, another thing is if you're looking at what's new in 2.6, this is a good way to find out because you'll go through all these settings and you can see what's different.
What it does, what it can do, and you can say, oh, let me try ACPI.
So this is where you would turn that on.
Exactly, and you can choose how you turn it on, whether it's going to be a module that's loaded at runtime, or if it's loaded as part of the kernel, just period, and it's extremely flexible. So.
The Linux isn't a traditional. It's not a microkernel. It's more of a module,
monolithic. It's a monolithic kernel with aspects of microkernel.
What's the difference? Explain that.
We don't have enough time.
All right, let me see if I can do it in a kind of layman's term. A kernel like Windows has everything built into it. They call it a monolithic kernel because basically support for everything is kind of built into the kernel files. Some drivers, but it's a highly monolithic kernel. And then there's something like Mach, which is a microkernel, which really knows nothing. It's a very small kernel and is taught everything with modules and device drivers. Right. This is a little bit between both. It's neither a
microkernel
nor monolithic. So that's the choice, right? You could have it
Windows. It's an extremely complex issue. It cannot be.
It cannot be. Well, I just did that just to make it easy. Right. So in this case, you could build stuff into the kernel, which would be more monolithic style, or you can make it add on as a module. Is there an advantage to doing one way or the other?
Well, sometimes you can't really use modules. Like if you want native support in the kernel from the very first moment you boot.
So like for USB devices, you have a USB keyboard, you got to put it in the kernel.
You got to put it in the kernel.
Right.
And yes and no. But but more like if you have like a special kind of hard drive, where you're trying to run off a special kind of solid-state disk. Right. You gotta.
So we've configured it all. We go through the menu. We look at all the options.
So we have all kinds of cool things.
Are there any things they should really avoid in the options? Can you really screw yourself up?
You can. You can. You want to go
through maturity is a big issue, I know.
Actually, it's not as big as you think. What's a bigger problem is if you go to like the bus options and add something stupid to it.
Yeah.
You know, don't put on
Visa
PCI.
local bus priming, kids. That's not a good idea. Okay.
And be sure to turn on PCI support because
if you don't turn that on, you won't see. So after you've done all that,
so you'll exit from it. You'll save your new configuration,
and that's it.
Well,
now we can make it and build it.
Yeah, you can make it and build it now. So we'll do things like make dep, we'll make install.
Make dep means make dependencies, which means make all the files that it needs.
Right, and put them into place.
Put them in place.
And then you'll do a make install, which will then chug. The whole process will take some time.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, I often use this to benchmark processors.
CPU architecture.
To see how long it's going to take to build
I got it done in 4
kernel.
minutes.
Yeah.
You know, but I told people in the article to expect at least a half hour, sometimes more. And then you'll make your modules.
So that you can add those in. Those are basically drivers. The truth is, it's not that hard to do, especially if you follow the Linux kernel how-to. It's very specific, your article as well. And you'll learn a lot about how the kernel works and how Linux works. This is really Linux is what you're building, the actual Linux. So enjoy yourself. And I think, so you say not yet, wait a little while till 2.6 settles
Unless you
out.
want to play and have a good time.
Right.
There you go.
Well, I think a lot of people who use Linux, that's a lot of what they're doing.
Exactly. I mean, we are.
It's a learning process.
And it's cheaper than buying Panther.
You've got a very hostile
I'm sorry. Are
audience
there a lot of people
here.
from Macworld here?
You're going to be in trouble. I bet there's half the people in the audience can tell you exactly what make and model of Mac that beep was from. Yeah. All right, so reconstruction.com with a K is your website.
Yeah, K makes it cooler.
Reconstruction.com. Damage Studios.
Yes.
Not Danger. That's somebody else.
Well, I don't even know if it is.
Or maybe not. And your article is on the screensavers.com.
That's
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to run home and rebuild the Linux kernel.
You go home
as we speak. Stay where I'm using SUSE 9, and which is wonderful.
It's really
but it's 2.4. I don't upgrade.